Good morning, everyone. I say that as a disgruntled, disappointed Phillies fan. My name is Scott Rosner. I have the privilege of serving both as the program director of the sports management program and a professor of professional practice here at the Columbia University School of Professional Studies. I'd like to welcome everyone to the 5th annual Columbia Sports Management Conference. Or if you prefer, in honor of our longtime and now former faculty member and former head of CBS Sports, Neil Pilson, I'll offer an old school CBS Sports double shot for those of you old enough to remember it, and channel my inner Brent Musburger, cold intro from the NFL today, and tell you that you are looking live at a sold-out Columbia Sports Management Conference. We'll have 550 or so people in here during the day today in our new digs here in Lerner Hall, which, to quote another fixture of Sundays on CBS, for those of us of a certain age, IYK, we're moving on up, right? This is, really an amazing day for us. We're so happy that all of you were able to take the time out of your days to come here. And it's really great to see everyone. We have 75 plus alumni here today. It's good to see our 136 current students dressed so formally. Unlike their normal class, they look good then, they look great now. And of course, our friends from the sports industry as well, some of whom we have the honor of working with as faculty in our program. We'd also like to introduce ourselves to some prospective students who are in the audience, so hi. Some of you have traveled internationally from as far away as the Philippines, as our alum Erica D has done. Thank you, Erica, for that. Or at great distance across the country to get here. Some of you even managed to make it from the East Side and Brooklyn and New Jersey too. So thank you for all of you for coming here. A special shout out to Mickey Lawler, who was a panelist on our first panel. She came up from Tampa early, and amid great uncertainty about her home and everything else still. So really a special shout out to Mickey. You've all come here to learn from some of the best minds in our industry and the best minds that it has to offer, who very graciously took time out of their incredibly busy schedules to spend time with us, network, and have some fun while doing so. I'd also really like to quickly thank the team of folks who have worked so hard to make this day happen. Our sports management program staff, our Deputy Director, LJ Holmgren, Associate Director, Danny Hagenlochter, Coordinator, Lisa Ruiz, our Senior Director of Career Services, Mary Scott, our Industry Liaison and Communications, PR Maven, Joe Favorito, who has been a huge champion of this event. All of them are great at their jobs. They make my job so much fun that I really love coming to work every day and getting to work with all of them. I want to thank our team of student volunteers, without whom this wouldn't be possible as well. Bria, Noelle, Michael, Eric, James, Karthik, Ola, Freddie, Victor, Pragna, Komal, Michael, Ayush, Freddie. Really just thank you for taking the time to help us, on your own, out and take time on your own schedule. Really want to thank our SPS events team in advance, Andy Horner, Kira Stockdale, Marika Ragoskaya, and crew. You have been a huge part of making this happen and deserve way better than to have to work with us, in particular me. And I'd really like to thank our faculty members as well, who volunteered to both coordinate and take on moderating duties for our various panels: Mary Wittenberg, Mary Scott, Sunil Galati, Val Ackerman, Neil Pilson, Ellen Elmore, LJ, Tom Richardson. Very much appreciated. Couple of quick changes to our panels. We've had some last-minute changes due to a couple of folks testing positive for COVID, a couple of folks whose travel was disrupted by the hurricane. First, I'll be serving as the sixth man coming off the bench for the conversation with Adam Silver for Joel Litvin, who sends his regrets as he has tested positive for COVID. In addition, Ed Cull, the athletic director at St. John's, will be on the college athletics panel, as Amy Perko from the Knight Commission has also tested positive. Mark Riccio, the CEO of USA Lacrosse, is replacing Amanda Kraus from U.S. Rowing. On the Olympics panel, she's been impacted by the hurricane. And so that's our changes. That's like our playbill announcement for the understudy roles, so to speak. But certainly none of them are understudies by any stretch of the imagination. A couple of logistical announcements. You're on the ground floor right now. You do not have campus access from this building. You can only exit back out onto Broadway from whence you came. Farmers Market today, right? All sorts of good stuff. Restrooms are located to your left outside those doors right there. Breakfast, for those of you who missed it, and lunch are behind you. Beverages will be served there all day. Lunch will be available at 12:15 in the area behind you. You'll be able to eat in the auditorium, in the area outside the doors. Over here, there's a bunch of tables set up or back behind you. We'll start up again at 1 p.m. sharp, so please do be back and seated by then. The doors, if you're hanging out, those doors are not soundproof back there, so please do refrain from congregating outside those doors. It can get pretty disruptive. We love the networking, just please do it a little bit further away, right, would be the message there. And we have very little turnaround time between each panel, with literally just enough time to get our panelists on and off the stage, and a very crowded agenda. So we ask that you respect the timelines and not congregate around the stage so that we can stay on schedule. Finally, each panel is going to have a Q&A session at the end using the questions that have already been asked by our Columbia Sports Management students. Okay, so we've got those questions. With all of that said, I want to turn it over to Mary Wittenberg for the first panel. Mary is in her 4th year teaching in our program, one of the most respected and best leaders in the industry and expertise that she teaches to our students in our leadership course. Have an amazing day, everyone. I look forward to having conversations with all of you. Mary, take it away.
Thank you, Scott. How's everybody? We are come on out, dear panelists. We are going to jump right into this. We are starting on the upswing this morning with extraordinary leaders. Come on out, leaders. Extraordinary leaders representing great organizations, all on the upswing. So if you look at our incredible list of panelists and their organizations, you might say, what do they have in common? I say, even though Mark representing PBR is a longtime organization, and Shayna representing the New York Liberty, one of the OGs in the WNBA, both of those are at significant moments of growth. So I think combined with Mickey starting Unrivaled and Amy leading the PWHL in its 2nd year, these are all emerging organizations with huge growth trajectories. Together, they are all disrupting what have been traditional models in the business of sport and the business of marketing. And they're all facing incredible challenge, but really seizing great opportunity in increasing media visibility, in growing their fandom, and getting beyond what's been the traditional sport fan, and really connecting to community locally, and then growing their brands as well, in many cases, nationally and internationally. So there's a lot in common here, and we're excited to get into it all. Shayna, we're going to start with you.
Okay, let's
Now, my microphone's causing a little bit of a problem, but I was going to sport my jersey. The Liberty, not my jersey, my T-shirt.
I have not seen that before.
Oh, do you think? Last year I bought some just fun. It might not be authentic, official. I don't think it was Amazon though. I think it was a little more official than that. But into the championships.
Yes, tonight.
Tonight we start again. Thank you for taking time.
No, of course.
Okay, we're
I'm so
Liberty
happy
fans.
to be here.
Liberty fans? Big Liberty fans? If you have not been to a game, you have to go. Shayna hopes it does not go to October 20th, but there were a few tickets left for that 5th game last time I checked, so that's your chance to seize them. But Shayna's had an amazing career, starting pretty early on at ESPN on the media side, but a real storyteller at heart. And you've been published in so many different publications, and often cited for your brand building, for your storytelling. And I think the example of what you've done with the New York Liberty, you have made it New York's team.
Oh, thank you.
Very difficult to do. So if you can share with us a bit, you had this period where you almost, it was a rebirth of the New York Liberty with the move to Brooklyn with new ownership, and you and Kia Clark, your incredible
our CEO.
CEO, have really been incredibly successful in making this New York's team. Can you share with us how have you done that?
Yeah, so thank you so much for that, and thank you to Columbia for having me today. An honor to be here. So I joined the Liberty in 2018 as a consultant, and that was when the team was in transition and relocating from MSG and kind of in flux in terms of the future of the franchise. And in 2019, our current ownership, Joe and Clara Wusai, purchased the team, and then they announced that they were moving the team to Brooklyn. And as a native New Yorker, I thought it was an incredible opportunity and responsibility, and just something that would be fun to help reestablish or reposition this legacy franchise. The New York Liberty is an original WNBA team, and there's so much history and tradition there, but moving from Manhattan and into Brooklyn, I thought, there was an opportunity for us to create a different culture, create a different identity for this brand that really tapped into and leaned into New York culture in a rich way. And I look at it through the a lens of 3 C's: on the court, in the community, and for the culture. And so that's really been the recipe in which we've been able to find this success. It's something that we started to build in 2019 when we received the official word that the team would be relocating. COVID delayed that a little bit in terms of us really being able to execute and build momentum. But once we moved into Barclays Center in 2021 and into Brooklyn in 2021, that's when we really started to roll up our sleeves and really start to immerse ourselves within that Brooklyn culture. And so you see that today through our mascot, Ellie the Elephant, our partnership that we recently announced with Off-White, which is their first partnership of this kind with a North American sports brand. Our players, will attend Fashion Week, and it's just a matter of I recognize that being in New York gives us an advantage over any other WNBA team, and it's one of our true differentiators. And so to truly lean into that, and then also we are the only WNBA team in New York City, and so unlike choosing between the Mets and the Yankees or the Jets and the Giants or the Nets and the Knicks, everyone can root for the New York Liberty. So that's really been our main strategy.
And you've done such a great job being so deeply local throughout the 5 boroughs, actually, certainly in Brooklyn, but I really feel like throughout all 5 boroughs. How are you also building a national and international brand at the same time?
Yeah, I think, part of that has been the rise of the WNBA this season, right? We've seen it skyrocket in terms of popularity. And I like to say that we were at the forefront of that even last season with us going into the finals, us having Breanna Stewart, who was the 2023 MVP. Sabrina Ionescu has a massive national following. And so really tapping into that. Also, we have an incredible PR team in-house that has successfully helped us gain more national attention. Yesterday or 2 days ago, Ellie and our CEO were at the Glamour Women of the Year Awards. Ellie was on Good Morning America yesterday. So, and then Justin Timberlake was at Barclays Center. And so it's really an immersive strategy where we are tapping into these other opportunities and leveraging our own assets as well. So the Barclays Center was recently named the #1 arena or touring arena in the world, I believe. And us being able to have that as part of our family and say, why can't we leverage our brand and then build that collaboration between the two, knowing that it'll just amplify and heighten all of the great work that we're doing.
Amazing. And for how many of you come from outside New York City? It's just incredible. Everyone goes home loving the Liberty. That's thanks to your great work. Mark, PBR's been around a long time. Shayna just talked about culture. Yeah. You're Chief Marketing Officer, and I certainly get the sense that you are building PBR, but also feels like this big rise around, I don't have cowboy boots, but Western culture. Tell us, how are you tapping into that?
Yeah, it's an exciting time, certainly, to be with professional bull riders. We've been around for about 32 years, but this has been an incredible moment, and hopefully it lasts beyond a moment. You can Google the Yellowstone effect, right, and see that all of a sudden that people that you didn't think that would be interested in Western culture are tapping in. What we call Western curious is the demographic that we're going after. So, just a few years ago, we were getting kind of a solid, no, that's not for me. And with the rise of really the program Yellowstone, people were now tapped into cowboy culture and the values that cowboy and cowgirls have. Beyonce threw a cowboy hat on at the Super Bowl.
That was a big
And that was a big moment. You look at the folks on this panel and the emerging sports here, and you think of the NFL, and well, the NFL can't have any more fans, right? And then a pop star starts dating a tight end, and things explode. Different demographics and segments explode. So for us, year over year, we have I was pulling YouGov numbers last night. We're a little shy of about 80 million fans. We've seen tremendous year-over-year growth in multiple segments, including kids, our Hispanic audience, our student and college audience. And I'd point to a couple things that we're doing to take advantage. One, on the Yellowstone effect, collaborations with those in pop culture. And Shana mentioned that with the Liberty and some of the ways they're taking advantage of that. Cole Hauser, who is in the series of Yellowstone, Rip Wheeler, is a brand ambassador of ours. And we created a full brand campaign around Cole and really have tapped into that. So he kind of plays the part of Rip Wheeler in a lot of our creative. And he put together kind of an 8-minute piece that we've cut up. It was filmed in Montana. And we've utilized a lot of that in introducing this sport to the Western curious. So I would also say that, and we'll talk about this further, is that for the last 3 seasons, we're finishing up our 3rd season of PBR teams. What we noticed was that we didn't want to be a spectacle, right? We didn't want to just be a spectacle, where we came to your town once a year, maybe like the circus, and you came to the event, and you never thought of us for another 365 days, if ever again. We want to be a sport. We want to be something that you consume. Attending the live event is just one part of that piece of fandom. So teams, and there are 10 teams, one plays at Barclays Center and is owned by Mark Lazary, who used to co-own the Milwaukee Bucks. John Fisher from the A's is also an owner. Teams has allowed us to have an imprint in communities 365 days a year. And it's allowed us to grab that casual sports fan who might think, that's not for me. And once they see it, they're captivated by it. And we've seen a lot of growth in audience because of that.
Amazing. How many of you are Yellowstone fans? Wow. How many Western curious? I wasn't, but maybe I'm a little more.
Come out to MSG in January.
Mark was also, you were named National Lacrosse League Executive of the Year last year, 2 years ago, for Las Vegas team there, and you've been at the Harlem Globetrotters, a whole bunch of different organizations, but this isn't Scott's favorite, but you were also at our next round of playoff-bound New York Mets. This is really for my 23-year-old who's been obsessed since he was born. So, but go Mets!
I have that same hat with the World Series emblem.
Yeah, exactly. We're believers. Okay, next, Amy Shear of the PWHL. It leads all business operations. Is the lead business leader there as Senior Vice President of Business Operations. Amy, it is incredible what you achieved last year. In what seemed overnight, we went from a landscape of a couple different groups vying to be the Women's Hockey League, and we looked destined for a while there that we would have multiple potentially competing leagues. And you and your main investor and Billie Jean King and Alana Klaus came together with the players and many of the top players, and you were able to create this one league and launch it in what seemed like a matter of months and immediately establish this is going to be the highest level of hockey in the world. These teams are going to be really competitive with each other. And you established out of the gate that this was the league that would be the league and one to watch. Now you're in year 2. You've introduced team brand names this year. Super curious, how are you building? You're building the brand of the league with the PWHL. You're building now the brands of each of these 6 teams, and you're building the brands of these incredible players. How are you balancing all that?
Well, I don't think there's any such thing as balance in this business because we're all working 80-hour weeks. But I think it was crazy when we started the league and we decided no team names. There were team names that leaked, and I start on day 1 and I see the leak of the team names and I didn't like them, and Jane, who's sitting in the audience here, was a big help. I was like, Jane, I don't know what to do. I make one call and I was like, I talked to someone, she's like, the ship has sailed, you need to go with these names. So I called Jane up and she's like, you can't settle, go call Stan. So I got kicked in the butt by Jane, who's, was the first person I hired to work with me. So I called Stan Castanup, who's on our board, president of the Dodgers, and I said, Stan, we can't go out with these names. And he said, why? And I said, well, we don't have logos, we don't have a story behind the names, they're just sort of random. And he said, okay, no team names. So I was like, okay, great. So I think the best thing we did in year 1 was going with PWHL Minnesota, PWHL Boston, PWHL Ottawa, Toronto, because it helped fans now identify and become fans of the league. While they're rooting for their local team in their local city, they are now fans of the league, and they're walking around with merchandise that says PWHL all over it. So a wonderful product or outcome of a decision that was just, we're not ready to have names. And I don't think it was a strategy on day 2 to not have team names. It's just one of those things that actually worked out in our favor and worked out great. So from day 1, we had fans of the PWHL wearing PWHL gear and following their favorite teams. And then our fans told us we need team names. So we came up with 6 team names in 7-8 months. Which was a crazy undertaking, and I can't take credit. Our VP of Marketing, Conan, led that charge, and now we have 6 team names, and it's up to the teams to help build those brands locally in the markets, and it's up to the fans to really build organically what those traditions might be. And so the teams have been hard at work with the marketing folks. What do we do with the logo? What do we do in arena during event presentation? How does that come across on social media? How does it come across? We've got a big sign culture. Fans come to the game, they all come with signs. How do these emblems and identities come across with the kids on these signs? And so all those things are being now talked through. But I think a lot of what happens will happen because the fans are leading it. I don't think it's our job to tell the fans how the brand should come to life. I think it's up to the fans to come to the arena and bring to life, whether it's the Scepters, whether it's the Ottawa Charge, whether it's the New York Sirens. It's up to the fans to bring those to life. And so we'll watch them build them out. But it's been a crazy, I haven't even been here a year yet. It'll be a year at the end of this month. So it's been a crazy 11, 12 months in which we've stood up 6 teams, a league, brought on new brands. We have our jersey launch coming at the end of this month or early November. And so there's still a lot more big things to happen that we're not quite there yet. So the good news is that we actually have the time now to be intentional with our decision making, intentional with our strategies. Our season ticket numbers have doubled over our last year's numbers, so we're off to a good start on the season ticket front. More to come on ticket sales as we announce our schedule in the next week or so. So year 2, trying to be more intentional and move forward I'd love to see our attendance go from 483,000 to maybe over 600, 700,000 this year. So a lot of work ahead, but we've got a great staff and a great team to do it.
Amazing. It is a huge credit to you. I've got to say, you've had an amazing career, formerly at the New York Liberty, launching NYCFC, chief commercial officer at the Red Bulls. The list goes on. You, more than many people I can think of, have been on the operations side, the marketing side, all across the sports business and with team, especially, I think it's such an experience being with the team, and to come in that with all that experience and build a league. I don't think anyone could have done it without that kind of experience, the way you did it so quickly. A quick question, what you just said, did the fans want team names? Would the city names have been enough, or did they want an actual second name?
The fans told us they wanted conventional team names.
Wow.
And you know, our conversation in the first year was, listen, like, if you look at soccer globally, they go by the city names, whether it's Barcelona, whether it's Manchester. Globally, this is how soccer teams are named. And so if it's good enough for the Premier League and for La Liga and all the other teams, it was certainly good enough for the PWHL. So we didn't feel bad having, you know, PWHL city name in our first year. We felt it was fine, but the fans literally said, we want conventional team names. We want them to be bold. We want them to be strong. We want them to be confident. And so the fans put us on a path to coming up with these 6 team names.
That is just so interesting, because this is going to be interesting now to watch League One volleyball's launching in January, and the soccer model is so compelling. If you think about, you know, Austin, it could be VB, but are people going to want second names? And for all of you out there who are creative, try to go find a second name now. Across basketball, hockey, all these sports, there's so few names left.
We had to do it across 2 countries also.
Yeah.
And so the IP is different in the United States than it is in Canada. So to go through 2 sets of laws and finding the team names that work and are not taken that you could have ownership in was, I think we threw out like 600 names. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's amazing. A lot of ChatGPT searches, I bet. Mickey, it is such
a bad example for the students.
Oh, I love ChatGPT. Wait, I use it all the time.
We did not use ChatGPT, just for the record.
Wow, why not? Mickey, it is such an honor to have you. If I look back and think who has built commercial value around women athletes, a women's sport, and a women's tour, it's you. I mean, you took the WTA from the early days, and you made that a global brand. You helped these athletes be global stars, and both the brand of the WTA, the brand of the players, plus really creating true commercial value was not easy, I am sure. And now, Unrivaled, the new 3-on-3 league that I'm so excited about, and I'm sure many of us are excited about, starting in January in Miami with many owners that all of you know, including Alex Morgan, Megan Rapinoe, and really the co-founders from the WNBA. To me, that's like the headline of the whole story. How are you going to bring all that amazing experience, and in short order, what parts of it are key to launching Unrivaled and beginning the success of that?
Well, when you say that the WTA, that I'm responsible for that, I am not responsible for that. The athletes are responsible for that. They are the ones that bring it to life. And the perfect example is women's basketball. In tennis, we started with Billie Jean King, and she gave ownership to the players. It was a partnership between tournaments and players. And there was a commercial formula whereby there was revenue share, a prize money formula, and everybody captured the value of the growth of women's tennis. In women's basketball, it has been fascinating to see the incredible stratospheric growth. And that is thanks to Shayna and her work at the Liberty, and she's going to say it's the athletes. It's a partnership. And what has happened in the WNBA this year is that 2 athletes, the perfect rivalry, has opened the curtain to all of the work that's been done for the past 2 decades. And so then there was further alignment of the stars with the Olympic team winning the gold medal, and then having the unrivaled by day, rivals by night tonight, with Nafisa Collier and Brianna Stewart being the co-founders of the league. So for the first time, they're giving equity to the athletes. They're sharing in an equity pool, and they're able to stay in the United States in the off season. The idea is to have 2/3 of a normal basketball court, 3-on-3, 5 players per team, 6 teams. We won't announce the team names for another few weeks, but we are having team names because we don't have cities. And that is one of the things that you wonder about. It'll be exactly the opposite experience of what Amy had. So I am just benefiting from all of this work, and I'm so honored and humbled by these amazing athletes. So I'll just do my best, try to capture and control as much of the challenge, because there's a lot of challenge, and then deliver on the opportunity. So we have to be operationally buttoned up, and we have a massive list of to-dos in the next 2 months.
Hey, you're the most humble commissioner we've ever met, but it's incredibly exciting. And so will the player brands really, that's what you're saying, you're going to get the name, they'll lead. Will there be captains for each team?
Yes.
And the captains will be the most.
Yeah, the captains, we're going to do a lot of content capture. So it's a media product first, and so no traveling this year, maybe next year. But it's all about content. It's about pulling back those curtains, telling those player stories, which is the amazing opportunity of 2024 and in the future is that we've got endless room to tell those stories.
I know John Skipper's an investor.
Yes.
Have you shared your media deal yet?
We have not shared our media deal, but we are soon.
Excellent. And so it's mainly a media property to start.
Yeah.
How many seats in the arena?
About 800.
800, that's nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so
And we'll have 2 games per night, 3 nights a week.
So you're just going to sell those tickets out. You're not worried about ticket sales?
No.
Yeah.
Should
Can
I
we
be?
go
No.
still, or is it too late? Are we already sold out?
I'm worried about having tickets left to sell because everybody's, oh, will you give us can I have a ticket? Can I have a ticket? That is the most horrible part of our jobs.
Yeah.
Is our friends feel really neglected if we don't give them tickets, and there are too many friends.
Yeah. Yeah. Is anybody running the New York City Marathon this year? Okay. That was the hardest part of my job.
Yeah, tickets.
Tickets. People want to run, and people want to go to these games. And hopefully they're all selling out very soon, and most already are. So that's a perfect segue, because I'd love to follow up from the brand conversation and talk about investment and really what's behind each of these leagues and teams and making them successful. And Amy, I think I have to guess from the outside, part of your speed to market had to do with the single investor model. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that single entity model and what were the pros and cons of that?
Sure. So before the league was launched, and well before anybody knew what was happening, Mark Walter gave Stan Kasten the marching orders of we must have a collective bargaining agreement before we start the league. And so Stan Kasten and Royce Cohen, 2 of our board members, started working with the PWHPA, which was this group of 200 of the best players in the world that had banded together. They sat down and they carved out an 8-year collective bargaining agreement. So once that was done, the league was announced on, I think, August 29th, and then Stan promised the players we would drop the puck on January 1st. And so there was a very short runway up to our first game, but the single entity model, the great part about it is that there's no 6 individual owners to have to go talk to when we want to make change or we want to do anything. And so it's very simple and allows us to generally move at a very fast pace. And given that we had a 3 or 4 month runway to our first game, we needed to work at that pace. I couldn't spend my time lobbying 6 owners to want to do the same thing. I just called Stan or I just called Royce. I had to keep Alana and Billie Jean in the loop. But the single entity allows you to move at a speed, I think that's quicker than other leagues. It also allows you to really be very efficient in terms of your staffing and resourcing. So our teams are staffed, 5 to 8 people on the business side, not the hockey side, business side. And at the league, we're staffed at a much higher level. And so a lot of what we do then flows down into the teams and supports the teams. And a great example of that, and I had this conversation the other day, so last year in our finals, it was Boston and Minnesota. And the Boston had a very inexperienced business staff. And so what I did is I told New York, like, you know, this is the only time New York and Boston will ever work together, but I told the New York staff, you are moving up to Boston for the week. And the Boston staff went up to, or the New York staff went up to Boston for the week and helped them run and do everything around the finals, whether it was ticket sales, event presentation, PR, marketing, merchandise. The two of them teamed together to put on the best possible show for the Boston fans during the finals. So there's a lot of sharing, there's a lot of collaboration, we're all one. And I think that just helps from a spirit and culture point of view as well. So fast, efficient.
Well, I know you already have one of the best PR comms people in the whole world in Manny Gutman, but this sounds like a very fun place to work and very tempting from an operations standpoint to stick with single entity. Those are pretty good advantages.
I think we're fun.
Yeah. I'm sure you're fun. Mark, you talked about introducing your team model and the investor model there. So do you want to talk a little bit about that?
It is different than the single model,
Yeah.
but it was really interesting, actually, Amy, to hear that. PBR Teams was founded just a couple years ago. Our season runs mid-July through mid-October. It culminates in Vegas at T-Mobile Arena, actually next weekend. The individual touring model has been in place for 32 years. It really runs from mid-November all the way through mid-May, culminates at AT&T Stadium in Dallas with our World Finals. We started with 8 teams, individually owned, and the value of those teams, we added 2 expansion teams, as I mentioned, one of them in New York for the 2024 season, have just grown exponentially in terms of value. So our setup from July through October is that we visit each team's market, each of the 10 teams' market, again, New York included at Barclays Center, for a weekend. So you're not seeing New York play Austin in the middle of the week and Texas is playing Missouri on another day in the middle of the week. All 10 teams converge in a home team's market for the weekend. We have our Board of Governors meeting next week. We employ at the league level, there's 140 employees at PBR. We employ a marketing person at each of the teams. And some of the teams do have their own staffs. All 10 of them have their own staffs that vary. The Austin team has 6 or 7 full-time employees, where the Florida team might have 1 or 2. So much like Amy mentioned, there's a lot of sharing and a lot of collaboration. But we're in the early days, as the PWHL is as well, and we're in the early days as well, and we're figuring out some things as we go. But it is an ownership model, and it is working so far.
I love it. Amy, in the PWHL, that was a huge step forward doing a CBA right at the start, and I think that's a really interesting model for others to look at. And Mickey, you talked about the equity among the players, which is hard to figure out when one looks at current players and how do you have enough of a pool for future players and how it all works, but it's great. Your team's taken the time to figure it out. Talk to us about voice. I assume because your co-owners are these incredible players, the voice of the player up key part to building the league too?
Absolutely. It's all about that voice. Yeah. They are the ones that drive the business forward, and they should have ownership in it, and they should be leading the charge on how this is played, what brings out the best of women's basketball 3-on-3.
Yeah, that'll be awesome. Shayna, Mickey already gave you a call out here. The New York Liberty and all of the WNBA, but especially the New York Liberty, I feel like athlete voice has been such a big part of successfully building your brand. Can you speak to us about how conscious is that when you think about building the New York Liberty?
Yeah, it's everything. I would say that we're a players first league, but speaking specifically about the Liberty, a player first team as well. In 2016, the players led with their voice and they stood, for what they felt was right in bringing awareness to what at the time was a lot of police brutality and unjust killings against Black people. And that was kind of what kick-started or jump-started athlete activism in sport, and them using their platform and recognizing that, they have power. And so we've seen them do that time and time again, whether it's around social justice, gender equity, the pay gap, et cetera. And as a team, we feel like we owe them a responsibility to help amplify those platforms. How can we give you more power to speak up for what you believe is right? And so, it's really important for us to listen to our athletes. What are their needs? How can we make New York feel home to them? And really infuse that into everything that we do, whether it is something as big and as meaningful as giving them a platform to speak out about social justice or et cetera, but also I was in the hotel lobby the other day and Stewie stopped me and was like, I have an idea for a halftime performer. And I was like, okay, Stewie, let me see if I can get them to our game, So it's like, I love that they feel really comfortable in making suggestions and feeling like they have investment or a stake in what we do and how we show up on their behalf. Because I tell them all the time, I work for you. Everything that I do is for the players. And I love that I have that relationship with them where they feel comfortable and know that I will listen to what they have to say. And I truly value their opinions.
Love that. That's great leadership from the front office, for sure. We have this incredible room of ambitious graduate students and rising executives. For each of you, can you share a lesson you've learned on your growth path to being the leader you are today that you think will be relevant to what it's going to take to be a great leader in the sports industry in the next decade?
I'll start. So I took a non-traditional path here. I was not an athlete growing up. I mean, I played basketball in 7th and 8th grade, but I don't think that really counts. I'm also 5 feet, and I've been 5 feet since the 5th grade. So reality hit me very early that I wouldn't, go on to play professional athlete sports or even collegiate athletes or athletics rather. But I've always been a sports fan. I'm born and raised in New York. Obviously, the sports culture here is rich. And sports wasn't my first career. I worked in fashion for a little bit, did some just marketing, and then I pivoted into sports because I really loved it, and I decided to make this my career. And in that transition, I took less money. I went from being a manager back to an entry-level position, but it was all very strategic for me to get where I am today. And it didn't happen overnight. There were a lot of detours, a lot of no's along the way, but you just have to continue to press forward. Understand that the dots will always connect. You might not see it right away, but 5 years from now, you'll look back and you'll say, this is why that opportunity didn't work out for me, or this is why I met this person. And so you really just have to, if you recognize like you're in the right place and trusting that you're working in your purpose and walking along the path that you feel like is really meant for you, don't compare yourself to what your peers are doing, what any of your classmates are doing. Their journey is their journey, your journey is your journey. And just, again, remember that the dots will always connect.
I love that and love the analogy to the businesses you're running. Like, true to your purpose, don't worry as much about what everyone else is doing. And it might not all be obvious at every step, but if you're clear on the purpose and where you're going, the dots will connect over time.
Yeah. I feel also, too, it's really important to, I think, have good self-confidence. Don't be the smartest person in the room. When you are building a team, build a team around you that lifts you up because they may be better than you at what they do. And so we have a life of learning every single day. Let's be better than we were yesterday. So don't be the smartest person in the room. Build a team around you. I'm fortunate enough to have 2 of those with me today who every day lift me up and make me better because they're smarter than me in the things that they do. And that's okay. I'm confident enough to know that I'm not the smartest person in the room and understand that as a team, you build it to, I guess, make you better, right? Make you better. And so have that self-confidence to build a team around you that may be smarter than you and give them the pathway every day to succeed and not just lift you up, but lift the team or the property up that you're working for.
Love that.
It's very interesting. I would put it a little bit differently, but it's very well said, both of you. And I think about this a lot. How do you walk the balance between humility and confidence? And you're not going to walk that balance well every day. But you keep learning, like Amy says, you keep growing, and the benefit that I have is I can look back to 1986 when in women's sports, in women's tennis, which was the #1 women's sport in the world, only the top 5 made enough money to make a living. And they were sponsored by a cigarette company. The slogan was, "You've come a long way, baby, smoking away." In fact, they made cigarettes specifically for women with lots of nicotine, so that women would be completely nervous and not confident. So, but you know, we have Philip Morris to thank for that. And fast forward to 2024, the WTA's title sponsor is Hologic, a women's health company that literally makes the difference between life and death. And investing in women's sports went from a very nice social, emotional investment to a must-make investment. So this benefit of this incredible journey, if I can pair that with you guys, we'd be really perfect, because you have the future. I'm at the back of the line, you're at the front of the line. Anticipation of future trends, future consumption, possibility is really, really important. But as a leader, kindness, generosity, authenticity, be kind and recognize that without your team, you are nowhere. In fact, I thank them every day. So it's like a family, and it's really, really humbling. So,
thankfully, society's come a long way.
Yes.
Because it's just almost like hard to imagine that that's what it was. As marketers, we study generations, and you're likely in Generation Z. You're different. You are different than our generation, for sure. And there's a lot of good ways. You guys get a lot of heat. But you've challenged the norms, and just that example, you chuckle almost, because you almost can't believe it was like that. And attitude and effort. If you wear a smile on your face every day in this program, and you try your best, and you put in your best effort every day, that's all I think we as executives can ask for. The rest can really be learned. But it's attitude and effort, and that might be simplistic. But if you bring that to the table, you're going to stand above your peers.
Challenging the norm is a great way to wrap this up, because all of you have done that, never taking for granted that things should be the way they are across your businesses, across your teams, across your own careers. So love that. And last, tell us how to watch your properties. What do you want us to do? Buy tickets, buy merch, tune in.
Buy tickets tonight. We still have tickets at Barclays Center.
All right.
Game 1 of the WNBA Finals. If you can't attend in person, tune in to ESPN, right, Maya? ESPN, 8 p.m. And then all the merch is online. And go Liberty.
Amazing.
Go Liberty.
So excited for you.
Yeah.
Amy, you guys are...
For the PWHL, broadcast deals will come down the pipeline shortly in terms of an announcement, but your New York team, the New York Sirens, play at the Prudential Center in New Jersey. Come on out and support them. We have an amazing team here in the city, and wonderful players. It'll be the best brand of hockey you see. And so you can support that way. Also online merch. If you're in Boston, Ottawa, Montreal, Toronto, or Minnesota, go visit your team there as well. So social media, Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, you'll find us everywhere.
Love it.
Yep, same thing for us. Social media, a lot of engagement. The television broadcast partnership is coming in the next several days, we hope. And we are at Media Pro in Miami from January 17th until March 17th. So come and see us, and no free tickets.
Good.
I love it. Amazing. And it's going to be, it's such a busy time of year in sports right now. And mid-January is going to be amazing.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah,
launching.
and the
volleyball's
weather
launching.
will hopefully be a lot better than it is
Yes. And
this week.
again, thinking about you and your team and your family right now.
Thank you.
Mark?
January 3rd through 5th, Madison Square Garden. Go with Professor Favorito. He's been able to squeeze a few free tickets before, but I guarantee you'll have a great time. It's a party. We sell out at Madison Square Garden, which is just awesome. We've got a great relationship with CBS. Generally, if you're watching the Jets game at 1 or the Giants game at 1, we come on like right after. So, we do between 1.8 and 2 million folks who are watching our broadcast. That's where you can find us.
All right, and I'm going to give another shout out to our other women's team, the Gotham FC, the Bats, also in the playoffs. So be sure to follow them, but start with tonight, because if you haven't been to a Liberty game, it's incredible, and so super excited. Panelists, you're amazing. Can we hear it for everybody? Thank you so much.
Thank you.